Life's a long, long road that leads us.
You've listened to Ringo's new album, right? What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. The dude has never sounded better or looked better. It's amazing.
Yeah. Ringo just loves making music and being in a band. For anyone who's fortunate enough to make a living doing what they love, that probably keeps you young.
Yep. He's an inspiration.
And speaking of inspiration, picture this scenario for a second. It's the year 2025. Taylor Swift is just this absolute commercial juggernaut, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Sitting comfortably at #1 on the UK's official country chart. And then the artist who dethrones her.
Oh, this is the absolute best part.
84-year-old Ringo Starr with his country album, Look Up.
A total demographic upset that nobody saw coming. Like, least of all him.
Exactly. So today we are exploring this improbable, triumphant late-career renaissance. He's 85 now, and he just dropped his 22nd studio album, Long, Long Road.
Yeah, and we were unpacking how he found his truest musical identity, not in British pop, but in American country music.
Which is wild because, I mean, we naturally associate him with Mersey Beat, you know, that fast, sweaty, early 60s Liverpool club scene.
For sure. But to understand this country album, you actually have to go all the way back to late 1950s Liverpool.
Right, where he was the busiest drummer in town, mostly because he just happened to own a drum kit.
Yeah, you had the gear, you got the gig. But his heart wasn't really in that skiffle-infused rock and roll. He was entirely obsessed with country music.
Obsessed enough to want to move to Texas, which is crazy.
He literally wanted to do factory work there, just to be closer to the music.
And he applied to the American Embassy, like he was ready to pack up and go.
Yep. And the only thing that stopped him was the paperwork.
Just too tedious.
Exactly. He couldn't be bothered with the endless forms.
Which, if you think about it, is a massive sliding doors moment. If that embassy paperwork was just slightly more streamlined, he's working a factory job in 1962.
Meaning he never joins the band.
Right. So does this mean his entire pop career was essentially a 60-year, highly lucrative detour from his actual dream?
Wow. A 6-decade detour. I mean, that perfectly explains why this recent partnership with producer T-Bone Burnett feels so inevitable.
Oh, T-Bone Burnett, the legend behind the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack.
Exactly. The ultimate architect of authentic Americana. They actually met at a poetry reading.
Of all places.
Right. And Burnett later said he always heard Ringo as a Texas artist, purely based on his drumming style.
Wait, really? Like, how does a producer hear Texas in British invasion pop royalty?
Well, because Burnett listens to the rhythm, not the accent. He heard the swing. Ringo always played with this very specific shuffle, you know, a sort of laid-back, rolling groove.
Ah, slightly behind the beat.
Yes. It's not the rigid, aggressive beat of standard rock and roll. It has that Western swing feel, which is distinctly American.
That makes total sense. And that's why Burnett intuitively wrote a Gene Autry-style song for him right out of the gate.
Precisely. Which brings us to the actual mechanics of recording Long, Long Road.
Because they recorded remotely, right, between Nashville and L.A.
They did, but it stayed super organic. Burnett would send these foundational tracks, he called it putting some meat on them.
Nice.
He laid down the acoustic guitars and the upright bass to set the mood, and then Ringo would add his drums and vocals remotely.
But how do you avoid that sterile, digital puzzle piece sound when you record like that?
By leaning completely into the imperfections. Burnett used unpolished vintage ribbon mics. He treated that 85-year-old vocal like aged leather.
So no heavy auto-tune, no washing it out with massive 70-piece orchestras.
None. He left a ton of breathing room in the mix. It feels like a cozy, low-stakes midnight session.
With an incredible backing band, too.
Oh, absolutely. Burnett affectionately named the backing band the Texans.
Which is such a sweet full-circle detail because the Texans was the name of a local Liverpool band Ringo played with back in 1959.
Right. And the collaborations on this album are just stellar. You got Molly Tuttle on the opener, Returning Without Tears.
Giving it that lush Robert Plant and Alison Krauss style.
Exactly. Those tight, telepathic Appalachian folk harmonies where two voices just locked together.
And Billy Strings is on there too, right?
Yes, on My Baby Don't Want Nothing, providing these classic Everly Brothers vocal blends. And St. Vincent actually adds this mid-60s R&B swing to a reworked version of his 2005 track, Choose Love.
Oh, wow. And Sheryl Crow is on the title track.
She is, and that title track is striking because it features this beautiful spoken word section. He just says, don't be attacked by your thoughts. Let them come in, let them go.
It's literally like getting life advice from an elder statesman in your living room.
It really is. Wait, I mean, it absolutely feels that way.
And if you're listening to this thinking, is an 85-year-old really making authentic Americana, or is this a gimmick? You have to look at the visuals.
The visualizer for Returning Without Tears is a masterpiece. It's basically a mosaic of his entire life.
Picture this, an 85-year-old Ringo driving a vintage jet black Thunderbird convertible,
California license plate JXW 250.
cruising along the sun-drenched cliffs of the Pacific Coast Highway, the ultimate image of American freedom.
Tying right back to those early Texas dreams of the open road.
Exactly. But as he drives, the video constantly cuts to these archival flashes.
Right, like kids running down narrow brick streets in Liverpool.
The absolute frenzy of Beatlemania, vintage Pan Am jets, screaming crowds.
And young Ringo just thrashing on the drum kit. But the Easter eggs are what elevate the whole thing.
Oh yeah, the underwater shots of an octopus moving across the ocean floor.
A clear nod to his songwriting past, and a little yellow submarine cruising through the coral.
Plus the private stuff. Polaroids of him kissing his wife, Barbara Bach. Even a vintage billboard for her James Bond film, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Noticeably not a Sgt. Pepper billboard.
Exactly. Which proves he isn't running from his pop history to be taken seriously as an Americana artist. He's putting it all in the passenger seat of that Thunderbird.
It's a complete acceptance of everything he is. And that profound sense of acceptance is clearly resonating. The record sits at a solid 80 out of 100 in aggregate scoring.
Because it's not trying to reinvent the wheel, it's just excellent at being exactly what it sets out to be.
And that integration of his past is coded into the track list, too. They included a Carl Perkins cover, I Don't See Me in Your Eyes Anymore.
Which is a huge statement, because Carl Perkins is a rockabilly pioneer. He sang lead on 2 Perkins songs during the 1960s.
Right, so choosing to record a deep-cut Perkins song now cements the idea that his deepest musical roots never actually lay in psychedelic pop. They are firmly planted in American roots music.
Now, not everyone is just handing out straightforward applause. There was a genuinely provocative take recently regarding his legacy.
Yeah, the argument that he was, quote, never a genius, so his solo records have actually gained value proportional to his age.
Implying that you can't say the same for Paul McCartney's solo work. I vehemently disagree with that never a genius label. I think it relies on a very narrow definition of musical brilliance.
How do you mean?
Well, Paul is the melodic genius, right? The classical composer archetype. But Ringo's genius is the genius of groove.
Absolutely.
It's the rare ability to know exactly who you are, to serve the song perfectly, and to do it without an ounce of frontman ego. The drums become an essential character in the song.
That makes perfect sense. And to back you up, look at the rhythmic choices he made on a track like Tomorrow Never Knows.
Oh, totally.
He created this revolutionary hypnotic loop. Instead of playing standard rock fills that reset the ear, he kept this relentless rhythm going.
He essentially acted as a human drum machine decades before the technology existed.
Yes, those rhythmic choices were the engine propelling the tracks. You take his drums out, and the magic evaporates entirely.
Ultimately, the cultural verdict on this album highlights something so rare. Over the last few decades, we've gotten used to aging rock stars going on bloated farewell tours.
Right, or re-recording their hits, basically becoming nostalgia acts.
But here is an 85-year-old man with all the money, fame, and historical significance anyone could ever accumulate. And he is actively making new, old-timey Americana music.
Not for chart dominance, not to protect a legacy, just because he deeply enjoys playing it.
This album isn't a novelty side project. It's a man, after a lifetime of unimaginable fame, finally arriving at his truest musical home.
He traveled the longest road imaginable, only to end up exactly where he always wanted to be.
Think back to that young kid in Liverpool, the one who almost walked away from destiny to work on an assembly line in a Texas factory.
Purely to be close to country music.
He took a 60-year detour, became a global icon, but at 85 years old, he finally got his wish. He is making Texas music on his own terms.
It is incredibly poetic.
So it leaves you wondering, what is your Texas factory? What is that early passion, that quiet, authentic dream you left behind because life or a career or tedious paperwork got in the way?
Oh, that's a great question to leave off on.
It might just be waiting for you down a long, long road.
I love that.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. It's the Beatles, all day, every day, 8 days a week. Cass, we'll do it again tomorrow.
Right.
I wouldn't miss it for the world. Goodbye, everyone.
Until next time, when you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony.